Okay, so I think we can kick this off as people still continue to come. This is one of those Zoom meetings where it's totally okay to eat as long as you're not eating when you're talking, but snack and eat as you want, because this is all about food. Cook if you want as well. Feel free to have your cameras on or off as you're comfortable. And we're going to kick it off by hearing some opening remarks from Kenneth Wong, who was not able to be here with a scheduling conflict, but he recorded some special remarks for us. So let's play those.
The first time I saw the word cow soy in the middle of a menu in a Thai restaurant in San Francisco, I was a little bit confused. What's a Burmese dish doing in the middle of a Thai restaurant's menu? I thought. Naturally, I had to order it and try it out. The moment I took a first sip, I recognized it as the same dish that I grew up eating in Yangon. Of course, in Burmese, it's called ono khao soy, except in Thai restaurant, it was called khao soy. As it turns out, the origin of the dish might have been hidden in the mist of history, but as it turns out that it is the very same dish that I have ate all along. It was just a variation of it. I might say it's the same, yet it's slightly different. The coconut soup curry is a little bit thicker, sweeter, and the chicken comes in the form of a drumstick rather than chunks in the soup. And for texture, the Thai version usually has deep fried noodle bits for crunchiness, whereas in the Burmese version usually you get a fritter to go along with your dish. The origin of the dish, many of the food historians say, is actually somewhere up there in Yunnan among the Chinese Muslim communities. It seems like many of these traders, as they do their trade routes along Southeast Asia, they also recreated their famous dishes along the way. That's why it spawned different versions of ono khao soy or khao soy in Laos, Thailand, and Burma, among other countries. The first time I visited Thailand last year in December, I was also surprised by the pockets of Burmese communities that are springing up all over the place, because there are now many refugees and immigrants working in Thailand. And I also noticed that many of them try to recreate the dishes that they grew up familiar eating at home in Burmese restaurants and tea shops. I wonder how Burmese food is going to be transformed and reshaped as many of these immigrants and refugees recreate the dish that make them feel nostalgic and homesick. Looking forward to visiting Thailand again and trying out these dishes again. So here in San Francisco, if I want to eat Burmese food, I can always go to a popular restaurant like Burma Superstar. It's one of the popular restaurants that put Burmese food on the map, as it were. It makes Burmese food popular among the hip, young crowd in San Francisco, the tech crowd, the people who use social media like Instagram and Twitter. So it gives Burmese food a new reputation. It spreads Burmese food's reputation among a new crowd, a new fan base. But if you ask me whether the Burmese food that I can get at Burma Superstar is authentic, it's debatable. For example, if I were to order and try Burmese tea leaf salad at Burma Superstar, you get, among other things, romaine salad and sunflower seed, two ingredients that Burmese housewives would never think about putting in their tea leaf salad. I would say that many purists and traditionalists would actually call it a sacrilegious thing to call it tea leaf salad, but in its own way it tastes very good. And also, 8,000 miles away from Burma, some of the dishes have to be transformed and reinvented or reimagined by necessity. For example, when we make mohinga at home here, very few of us would actually go through the trouble of making the real, slightly fermented kind of noodles that is required to make the real dish. Most of us would simply go to a Vietnamese grocery store and buy something that closely resemble the rice noodles that we would eat with mohinga. So the taste is somewhat different, but it still captures the original taste. What's striking about the Burmese food that I found in Chiang Mai and Mae Sot is that in terms of flavor profile and taste and texture, they closely resemble the Burmese food that I remember eating. And that's probably because the ingredients that are available to make them are available in both countries, and both countries are situated very close to each other. And besides that, also the community that demands it, the refugees and the immigrants, want that kind of homely flavor that they are familiar with, the flavor that they miss, the flavor that make them feel home. So in a way, it preserves the culinary identity of the Burmese food. However, I also believe that food, just like people, when it branches out into different cultures and different country, has to adapt, has to adjust, has to innovate, and has to reinvent itself. Because things that fail to evolve tends to wither and fade away, just as immigrants that fail to integrate tends to have a much harder time succeeding in a new country. This brings me back to Ono Khao Soi in Burma and Khao Soi in Chiang Mai. From the point of view of the Chinese Muslim traders in Yunnan, neither of these dishes are authentic to its original form. Yet, in its own unique recognizable form, it is authentic to the Burmese and the Thai people. When a dish is recreated overseas, away from its original source, what do we really mean when we say something is authentic? And it brings to question whether we can really call something truly authentic at all, because after all, many of the dishes that we love and cherish probably came from somewhere else, quite possibly a corruption of something that eventually becomes a new classic.
Okay. And I think we need to, okay. So thank you very much, Kenneth Wong, for the introductory remarks. And we go to Trish.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Um, it's almost like a little history class. Okay, so hi everyone. I am Trish from Bamama. It's a little short bio of me. I am based in Chiang Mai, and I'm a chef, and then I have been cooking for about 10 years. Only recently, I opened up Chef's Table, but also I'm involved in a lot of food related community projects here. Um, and yeah, like I am so excited that Joa, um, yeah, Joa like is interested to do a panel discussion like this, which is so unique. And I think like there's Timmy cooking, and then yeah, an incredible panelist, and we were able to share Dalabor recipe. So with this program, we really aim to share like recipes as much as possible, and then considering the situation back home. And then I've always wanted to restore our recipes like in a proper archive or book. And then what better way to do it when all of us, yeah, share our indigenous recipes or like our family recipes. And then, yeah, I think this is I'm looking forward to all the stories. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And I'll give an introduction myself before we hear from the panelists. There are so many different stories and branches that we can go through with food and with Burmese food. And we're going to hear about this diversity when we hear from our panels. And I would like to talk about a relationship that I have with Burmese food that perhaps might be different than some of the stories we hear from our panelists, because my real introduction to authentic Burmese cooking was at the Buddhist monastery. When I came into Myanmar, my interest was in Buddhism and meditation, and outside of the restaurant where I had real home cooking was at the monastery. And it was also my introduction, not just to food and the types of food, but the relationship that food has to culture. For one thing, when you're at a monastery or meditation center, food is really the only sense pleasure you have at that time when you're doing intensive meditation. So food takes on a much greater importance in the mind and the senses. Also, of course, this is where I came to see the role of generosity and giving at play, and to see the extraordinary generosity that you would see at a monastery of many different people coming from many different backgrounds and giving freshly cooked meals or or cooking oil or rice or other things, and to see this in action, this giving. And it was also where I came to see that the monastery, much like the Burmese home, there was always enough food to share with whoever came by, even if they weren't expecting you, even if you had just popped in, there was always enough food for everyone, which would really amaze me that this freshly cooked food was always on hand. It was also at the monastery where I came to see the life cycle of food, where you would watch the food be donated, and spending enough days there, you would see how first it would go to the senior monks, and then it would go to the junior monks, and then the nuns and the novices, then the lay yogis and the meditators, then the lay supporters, then the workers, then it would go to the dogs and the cats and the crows, and eventually it would go to the insects. So I would see this whole life cycle of food, and I would watch the expectant, the monks would eat, but then the novices would be waiting, and then the lay people, and then you'd see the dogs and the cats waiting eagerly outside, because it was always the same time when this would happen. And I would remember going to monasteries where you'd have the gong and everyone would line up, the men, the women, the monks, the nuns, the workers, and even the dogs and the cats would start to become aware that something that the same thing would happen at every time, and they would howl when the gong would be rung for everyone to assemble, because they knew they were getting their meal as well. Um, it was also where I learned about the act of giving and receiving. It was where as I wanted to learn about the way that Buddhism was practiced and followed, and what a monk was, because I had never really seen one in my society. I came to understand that you can't just say, hey Bante, here's some food, go and take this, or oh, help yourself to that, please help yourself. There was this whole protocol of how you had to present an offer. And at first I found myself a little bit unsure about it. Seemed like kind of religious protocol that I was a bit averse to. And I had a European friend who was a monk who was staying with me, and I had to go work all day, and he was staying in my condo, and I just wanted to tell him, just help yourself to any food you have in my refrigerator, like a good friend, just help yourself to anything. And it was kind of annoying to me that he couldn't just take it, that there had to be this kind of protocol. And eventually I worked out with my neighbors that they would come to my condo and physically offer the food. And then a light clicked on, and I realized that my friend had renounced from the world. And part of renouncing was that he couldn't just help himself, that there was a reciprocal relationship where the only way he could get nourishment was for someone to physically, and I realized this act of giving. I have a ball and look for something to give. I have a ball in my hand. This act of giving, that I'm holding this and I'm letting it go and giving it to a monk who's then accepting it. And that taught me this deeper lesson about renunciation and Buddhism and Sangha, through realizing that it wasn't just a religious ceremony that was kind of this kind of annoying protocol I had to follow. It was actually a mental volition on both sides, of an act of giving and letting go, and an act of receiving whatever was offered and taking it, and not just help yourself to whatever's in my fridge, the kind of American way. Uh, so this was all my learning experience with food that I want to share in this panel, and also to share how when I would come to eat, and you have all the dishes laid out, uh, I would often be instructed by my Burmese friends at monasteries how I was eating incorrectly, because they would talk about how, well, you have this delicate balance of different flavors and temperatures and textures, where you have a little bit of this soup, but then a little bit of this kind of crunchy taste, but then you want to have this little bit of curry, but then you balance that curry with this little pickle. And uh, I never learned it. It was too complicated for me to ever become a master of, but it made me appreciate the complexity of what was being offered, and the mindset of how you ate it, rather than just I eat this, I eat this, I eat this, and learning how they all come together. So this is what I want to share about my relationship with Burmese food. One, that was at the end of what I was saying in any case. With that, I wanted to go to Timothy and to welcome our live cook and have you introduce something about yourself.
Timmy, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're cooking and like the recipes and whatnot?
Right. So I'll be cooking a Korean dish called Korean dish called dalabo. And I chose that dish because it is a very versatile um dish that my mom used to cook at home. And but first of all, my name is Tim. And I am I'm not a chef. I haven't been cooking for 10 years like Trish has.
An
But I
incredible
do.
cook. You're an incredible cook.
Thank you. I am a cook. Most of what I know about cooking I learned from my mom and most recently Trish. And there is something that my mom always say about food. She said, if you know how to eat, you know how to cook. Um, so ever since I was a child, my mom, she's a great cook, but there is one dish that I just do not like, and it's fish. Because because my mom is from the Delta region. She's Korean from the Delta, and my a lot of my uncles work in the fish business. And usually what happens is we get loads and loads of fish. And so that would mean months of eating just fish and something else once in a while. But so what would happen when I don't like a dish is my mom just tells me, go to the kitchen, find whatever, cook what you want. So that is how I mostly learned how to cook. And oh, great, you've got your ingredients. That was to be fair, I love fish now. Um, all right, so today I will be cooking talapot. It's a very versatile soup-based dish. I would say the main ingredient is rice, ironically. Although today we will be making bamboo shoot talapot. I don't know, I refuse to call bamboo shoot as the main ingredient, but rather the rice itself that makes the soup, that texture, that fragrance, and all of that. And I was and my mom would use any ingredient, not just bamboo shoot. She would use any kind of vegetable she gets, any kind of herb she gets. And so usually in a form, it is like a quick fix. Like if she needs something like a palate cleanser, she would just quickly make it because it's a very light, fluffy, peppery, and it can also be a little sour if it needs to. Um, and it's that kind of versatile dish. So that's what I'll be making, and I have all these ingredients laid out. Some bamboo shoot here. All right.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you, Timmy. I wonder like how many people in the audience are also cooking as well. But yeah, if you've like made the dish and follows Timmy's recipe, and maybe it would be great to share it on like your Instagram page or like tag us and then whatnot. Another quick like little info to Timothy's recipe talabot just in general. It's the Kirin like state, right? It's a it's been like war struck for many years, and then a lot of people have been um, displaced, or they have to, it's survival. It's survival out there, and then they have to find like whatever ingredients that's available to them in the jungle to be, to do sustenance. Yeah, it's a soup of sustenance, I think, and then whatever that's available, which in that area it's bamboo shoots and predominantly bamboo shoots. So that's how it ended up becoming such a star of the dish. But usually when I love the dish, I love this dish because I also cook like Timmy's a little bit, whatever leftover veggies, bottom shelf. in the fridge, I would just like throw it in. But like it's one of those like classical dish that you can kind of like wing it. Whereas a lot of like Burmese like national dishes, like if you don't follow rules and regulation, it's almost like death. And all the aunties will be like staking you for it. So this is like one of the I call it like chill soup, literally. Yeah, thank you, Timmy, for sharing. That was beautiful. Um, yeah, I think we are waiting a little bit on Nandar, but I think I would like to ask to two of our panelists, leading way into how like food, uh, because we are part of the diaspora community now, right? And things that we cannot go home, I think for me, I would recreate those memories. And the easiest way for me to remember very significant memories whenever I miss home or like feeling nostalgic, I would cook that specific dish in memories of my grandma, in memories of my mom or aunties. And then, yeah, I think food and also being delusional in my head would combine together to create those beautiful moments. And then with my community tables or like my chef's table or whenever I have like Timmy and all the Bangkok people over, I would just cook that and then sort of spread that food and love. And I want to ask that to two of our panelists, Gote and also Maten, about this, that how since yeah, since the coup, that you've been able to also use food as a way of memories and also for therapy as well, because it's so healing for me. Yeah. Whoever can start.
Fine, I'll go first. I was waiting to see if Gotet was going to do it, but okay. I think the first thing I should say is that it's, it's actually 2 in the morning in Europe, so I apologize in advance if I'm not being very lucid. But I'm also going to go to bed very, very hungry after listening to all of you, talk about all the amazing food, all the experiences that you've had, and seeing, fish being fought like literally live. But it is great. Thanks, Trish and Joe for doing this and asking me to be a part of it. And just to also talk about the eating of the different dishes, Joe, just very briefly. That is an ongoing battle, almost like in my household with me and my husband, because I've cooked multiple different dishes and he'll take like half of it in one go. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works when we eat in Burma. Like you take like 1 or 2 spoonfuls, you mix it all, and then you eat it. And it's like, but there's only 2 of us, so I'll get half of it. I'm like, no, that is not how it works. So there are definitely rules, or maybe I'm, being very, very pedantic about it. But I do think Burmese food is one of those where you have to eat tidbits, all of it, because they're these flavors that we want to put together in the dish, right? The normal, the sweets, salty, sour, bitter. What's the another thing? There's 5 flavors that we try and put it in all the Burmese dishes, and I think that that flavor, to get that balance, you have to have a little bit of everything. But anyway, going back to what Trish has asked, so there's two things, 2 dishes that I go back to time and again, whenever I'm feeling down or when I'm feeling homesick or family sick or whatever you want to call it. One is lapeto, which is obviously the pickled tea leaf salad. For those who don't speak Burmese, it is one of the first, okay, this is going to sound terrible, but it's also one of the first dishes that I learned how to make because there's no cooking involved. when I went abroad to study and I was living on my own, and I wasn't very good at cooking, partly because I grew up in a household with such great food and so much feeding. I never really learned. So lapet, you don't need any cooking. You put the lapet in, you put the ajozo, which is the fried nuts, and if you I normally put garlic, thinly sliced garlic, tomatoes, and if I have cabbage, I put cabbage. You've got a splash of sunflower oil, a dash of fish sauce, squeeze of lime juice, some chili, fresh chili, and that's it. You have a complete meal, and you just eat it with rice. You can have it as dessert. You can have it for breakfast, dinner, lunch, anytime. So that's like my go-to. And in fact, when literally soon after the coup happened, and I wanted to make lapetto because I was just so upset. And I discovered that my ajozo, which is the mixed, fried nuts that goes with the lapet, the pickled tea leaves, they've turned bad. I don't know how you say this in English. It's like nane, which is when you've stored it for so long and it has sort of turned slightly acrid smell. I just, I tried to make. I realized that it had turned bad, but I still tried to make the salad. And of course it was inedible. I burst into tears, and I wrote about it. Actually, I'm a journalist, right? I'm a writer, so I actually wrote an article about how even your comfort food is no longer a place for refuge. It just feels like yet another thing taken away, from you. But the other dish that I make whenever I'm homesick is sija kalsoe, which is, I think, translated as garlic oil noodles. And it's weird because sija kalsoe it definitely has Chinese influence, right? It's noodles. It's and there used to be this shop in Bojo Market run by this guy called Uchui, the best CJ culture ever, Beta CJ, which is, with duck. And, every time we go to Bojo Market, because my mum's friend has a shop there, we'd always order. But the main thing is my grandfather used to have an office in Yejo in Yangon. And every time I go and visit him, he would ask me, do you want some CJ cassoulet? And I would say yes. And the older I get, the number of bowls that I want to eat increase. So I started with like a little bit, and then a whole bowl, and then 2 bowls. And I finally learned how to make it during COVID-19 lockdown. It's so easy. I had no idea why I didn't learn to make it before, but I finally did. And every time I eat either of those, makes me feel slightly less rootless, makes me feel more connected.
Oh, yeah. We have those very, very nostalgic moments, attachments to like very specific food, especially like childhood memories food that are so powerful that you always like want to carry with you. So thank you for sharing that. That was Sija Kasue. And then, yeah, thank you. Well, Gotet, do you want to take over? Do you have any food related?
So I came from Paunde, is the western part of Baku. And then when I was 13, I moved to Rangoon, and then I missed my native town food. And at that place, that most of the people eat for the breakfast and also lunch, dinner. So they always eat tofu dough. Tofu dough is tofu salad. So it's different from in Rangoon. It's very different. So tofu made by the bean. So I think that's the bean powder is a little bit different from the pounded and also ragu. So I miss a lot. So in that time, the so when I got married and I didn't stay at my parents' home. So my mom, she always make the tofu salad. I every weekend I visit my parents' house and they make the tofu salad. So that's the one thing I miss a lot about that food. So also a lot of my friends they visit to my native town together with me. So for the breakfast I eat tofu dog and also lunch eat tofu dog and then dinner I eat tofu dog. So they ask me, why you eat a lot every time, but I miss a lot. So also I'm lucky, so after the coup and also the end of the 2021, I moved to Mesot. At the Mesot, one of my friend, they opened the Tokuto shop in here. Yes, I'm very lucky. And also another one is the Lapato. I miss a lot. So so people who are from the Mesa they are very lucky for the Burmese food. So here a lot of restaurant and they they have a Burmese food. So the lapato is many kind of lapatos. I missed one of lapato is the pojito. Pojito means that the grandfather sled like this. So maybe Tris can explain about that. I'm uh, I'm used to talk about the politics, and I know a lot of political word, but I don't know about the how to say ingredient and
No, can you tell me a little bit about like why is it called a pochito? Pablo Koale.
I
Like,
don't know about that, but they do not put how to say vegetable and how mean vegetable mean the tomato and also cabbage and like that. They just only put a lapet, a tea leaf, and also they put beans and also fried shrimp, just a wine like that. They just put it. No, not salad. Just put how to say. I don't know.
yeah. I remember that because like my vivid memory of that was just like eating at Bagan, right? And then they give you on a tea shop on the side, roadside, and then they put like just little bits of it. This was pre-COVID, so everyone was sharing spoons. And then you just like dip in like a little bit of sesame, you can dip in like a little bit of tomatoes and then the lapet and the jawzone. But then your mouth is a salad bowl and then you're just mixing it in your mouth and then combining it only in your mouth because you're just like dee, 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 dee. And then that was the most fun memory for me as a child because yeah, I was just like it's not about flavors, it's just so fun. Yeah, what a name though. I didn't know actually it's called Amboino, but
Yes.
yeah, like another thing with like you said, Gotet, that tofu from Bago, right?
Yeah.
It's very unique and very specific. I've only heard like stories from my mom. So for those of you who are don't know who've never been to Burma, is that Myanmar is huge and it's so hard to travel from like one city to another because of like restrictions or like there's a lot of like taboos in like traveling, especially as a woman. So we don't really like me, especially don't didn't get a chance to explore the food as much as the locals. So like the amount of like diversity and different ways of making tofu or like tofu salad, even lapeto, it's made differently depending on the regions that you go. So in my region or Yangon, but then because my parents have influences of what am I call like Dala and also Lapoda, which is like the epicenter near the AR-89, the AR-80 region, which has a lot of chickpea powder. They produce chickpea powder. So like we just put chickpea powder inside Lapato, right? And then only when I come to Bangkok, I realized that people were shook by that. And then when I was living at a safe hub, people were making so many different kinds of lapato that they grew up with, and then that was kind of like mind exploding for me. And then they were most shook about me putting chickpea powder inside the lapato to make it. So what happens is that if you mix chickpea powder is a thickener. Let's just say that we add that in our khao soi that Kenneth Wong was talking about to just thicken it. So if anyone out there wants to make lapato or like any type of salad that you want to make it a little bit thicker consistency, and put it in your salad dressing and then mix it in, and then it just makes it like super umami as well and rich. So yeah, this is wow. It's so cool to find out like different people and what their childhood food are like. But I know like it's not like related to like Burmese food, but also like what does like what about you, Joa? Like what kind of like childhood food memories that like you want to share about? Even though it's not like Burmese related, I'm sure it's
I could tell one of my childhood food loves that actually has a strange Burmese connection. And that's that when I was a kid, there was this imported cheese that came from Norway. I don't know the Norwegian name, but I would always just call it Norwegian cheese, and it was always what we had. It's hard to find in America. And it's always a treat when we do. And living in Burma for so long, people would come to visit and would often say, "Can I bring anything from from where I'm coming from?" And we would, it could kind of think like, "Oh, maybe I need this or that." And I had a friend from Sweden coming who became a nun in Burma, and I said, "This is kind of crazy, but it just occurred to me. Do you happen to know this kind of cheese?" And she was able to trace what I was referring to, and she brought this cheese to Burma, and I hadn't had it for years and years at that point. I never had it in the tropics, and it brought back childhood as famously Marcel Proust talks about. He talks about a certain who's a French author in the 18th century. He talks about this sweet cake that he had as a child, and then he didn't have it for many, many years. And when he has it as an adult, he tastes it, and all the memories of childhood come flooding back. It's one of the most famous excerpts of French literature is Proust describing this childhood memory that was kind of unadulterated. And actually, I've just been handed a Norwegian cheese in my house, so just been given that. So I was unprepared for the memories that would come flooding, and all I can think of was this famous passage from Marcel Proust eating this cake that he hadn't had since he was a childhood, that just unlocked all of these childhood memories that he was unprepared for by having this taste. And so it's interesting you asked that question, because this Norwegian cheese is one of those very unique childhood memories where it was not an everyday occurrence. I would have this. It was hard to find. And I'll never forget the moment of having that in Burma. It was so bizarre to be so far away in such a different climate with such different food, and to have this thing. And I think she brought like two blocks of like half a kilo, and I just like treasured that, and just had it. Every taste was just something that I just it was not just a culinary experience. It was kind of a poetic reflection of what these tastes were recalling. So that's my food memory to share.
Aw. How weird that like yeah, Burma has like a lot of interesting products that you'll never find. Especially cigarettes too, like the stuff that you can't find like yeah, when I used to be a smoker, and then the number of different brands that different cigarette brands is available there. It's insane. Um Timmy, do you want to, what process are you in? Can you be through? Not that I'm investigating. I know you're doing a good job.
Sure. Yes, I'm not slacking off. I've been cooking. All right. So I have now put everything in a boil. The first step in the recipe that we have shared on the website. So I can show you a little bit. My kitchen looks a bit of a mess, but anyway. Right. So I have bamboo shoots, fermented fish paste. I have some grilled fish left over from last night. It's not really my mom's cooking if we don't use the leftover. And I decided to add a little bit of, I went off the book, I'm sorry. I decided to add a little bit of dried shrimp powder because I think I feel like the fish is not enough. And I have onions in there. And what I'm waiting for now is I soaked the rice like about 45 minutes ago, and it is pretty soft now. So I'm gonna have to start pounding in a bit. But one thing that I was telling Trish a while ago was that I don't have a lot of things at home. I don't actually have a mora. So I'm gonna have to find a way to pound this. And I was asking my mom, and she said, just put it on your chopping block and like try to chop it or something, and that could probably work. But
Hilarious.
as next step, I have prepared some dill, and this is basil. And this is Burmese basil. But you can either use Thai basil or Burmese basil, anything that works. These are any vegetable actually is kind of optional. Like my mom, I was asking my mom and she said just put anything that smells nice. So it can be very subjective as well. So that's what I'm gonna be doing in a bit. I'm waiting for the bamboo shoots to soften up a bit. It has been boiled before, but it needs to soften up a bit.
Wow, thank you. Oh my God, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I think as I mean I identify as like a Pama, like the predominant tribe, right? But then I'm also like mixed like Shan. So like I've never really been like the central like capital city people. They're not really exposed to a lot of indigenous food. I hate using the word sometimes, but then like it's just Karen food or like ethnic food. And I've never had like a good dalabo in my life. And so maybe when I come to Bangkok, to me, you can cook for me this, your mom's recipe, because you've been raving about your mom's recipe like crazy.
Yes. Lisa asked, what kind of pepper do you use, white or black? So for this recipe, I'm actually using a mix of both. But usually my mom uses black pepper only, because that really helps this dish brings out the best. But I think I could also use a little bit of that white pepper. I want that white pepper flavor as well. So I'm using a mix of both. But you can stick to whatever you want you have. I think that's okay. I don't know, ask Trisha.
Whatever that's available. That's the beauty of this soup. Whatever that's available. I think that should be called like a second date, whatever that's available soup. Yeah, cool. Okay, Joa, do you want to move on to a second question that we have for maybe Matin or
Sure. I have a question for Marthin I would like to ask her and I would like to preface this question by saying that, again, food has many stories, food has much relevance, and there's many directions we can go. And we've been, up to this point, looking a bit at the personal relations that we have with food and what it means to us in a personal way. And this question is moving not beyond the personal, but to also encompass what food means when we're looking kind of from a higher view from the sky, looking down at a bigger scope. So the question I would like to ask Martin is, your reporting has often illuminated the overlooked intersections between policy and food security. And considering Myanmar's turbulent history, we have from colonial rule through various military regimes, transitional period towards democracy, and the recent post-coup challenges. I'm wondering if you can elaborate on how you've seen the shifts in governance, how these have affected farmers' livelihood and the broader population's food consumption patterns. And more specifically, how you've seen these political changes impacted the agricultural sector's resilience and the country's food culture, ultimately shaping the way that Myanmar's people think about and consume food. So I know this is a very wide open question, so take it wherever you want with your life and reporting and experience.
Sure, thanks. How much time do we have? Half a day? A day? 48 hours? Because I can go for hours talking about this thing, but I'll try and take it, not more than 5 minutes. Let's start with a personal reflection, since we're going from sort of personal to slightly macro view. So it was almost exactly 8 years ago that I had this sort of like light bulb moment. And that happened when I was interviewing the country director of the World Food Programme in Myanmar. Now, World Food Programme, WFP, is a UN agency that provides food assistance, right? And up until then, I'd been writing about hunger and malnutrition in Southeast Asia for many years by then. Probably, 7, 8 years by then already, but it was mainly in the context of disasters and conflicts and as a part of a wider, coverage around humanitarian issues. But what was really fascinating about that conversation and why it was the light bulb moment was the fact that, we were having this discussion and I was like, hang on, we are a rice surplus country and we export pulses and beans. And he's like, yes, but you are also the third most malnourished country in Southeast Asia at that point in time. That was in, like I said, 2016. And I was like, how is, why is this? Because I think a lot of the time we look at Myanmar and, we see the poverty, we see the hunger. It's very apparent. Whether you live in Yangon or you live in Daunji or in a village in Central Dry Zone or Kachin, right? But also we're a food surplus country. And he was talking about the fact that there are a few reasons for it. One is an issue of access. So for example, places like Chin or Kachin, where you don't have roads or the roads are bad, and that means the food, the produce, it just takes so much longer to get to anywhere or cannot get to places where they should. So when infrastructure is bad or unavailable. Or sometimes it's because of government policies, like with the Rohingya, when their movements, where the movements are restricted, or there's insecurity, conflict, and you cannot go. So there is food, but you can't get to them easily. Another issue is affordability, which means food's available, but it's too expensive. And again, a lot of it might be, because the infrastructure costs are high, it's because people are not being paid a living wage, right? And there are other reasons why we have this persistent hunger and malnutrition in Myanmar. Landlessness, lack of job opportunities, bad soil, bad agricultural practices. But essentially, what I personally took away from it is that hunger and malnutrition, to a very large extent, is the political failure, right? It's a result of decades of government neglect, bad policies, and in some cases, outright persecution. And that really helped me to see food on a systematic level. That it's not just, like we talk about, okay, people are poor. Why are they poor? It's not, availability is not an issue. Now, I know that we're a nation obsessed with rice, right? And Tim, I know you're saying even the talabo, rice is the main ingredient. I mean, we don't say hello, right? We ask each other, "Tamisabibila, have you had rice?" But you know what? It's really interesting that experts that I've interviewed said that this wasn't always the case, that diets used to be seasonal, actually quite diverse and much more healthy. And this whole obsession with rice was, you know, a result of this rice-centric policy that began in the 1960s during the socialist era, where the government, you know, really pushed farmers to grow rice, gave loans, you know, set up infrastructure, provided services, and it was a centrally planned economy as well. And, you know, the successive, I guess, dictators or leaders, whatever you want to call them, wanted to recapture this glory of Myanmar, Burma, at one point being the rice basket of Southeast Asia, right? And so they didn't care whether this was suitable, whether this was necessary, what, you know, kind of, you know, whether investments were needed. They just really pushed it. By around 2017, 2018, the data I saw showed that rice paddy fields accounted for at least a third of cultivated area and nearly 2/3 of people's diets. I mean, I love rice. In fact, I have a nickname called PBR, which means powered by rice. But rice in itself is actually not very nutritious. And the whole idea is to have a diverse diet, right? But people ask everybody, they would focus on eating the rice, because that's, I mean, empty calories. Part of it is cost, part of it is, again, access. What's easy, what you can get, right? If you have a hard day's work ahead of you, you're just going to have a massive amount of rice and whatever else that you can afford. Now, I was interviewing government officials just before COVID in 2019, who said that they were planning to diversify the crops and the diets because they are worried about high levels of malnutrition and hunger, right? Because some of the impacts can be intergenerational. Now, the problem at that time, and I'm sure it hasn't actually really changed very much, was that farmers were reluctant to grow other crops because the only way they can get loans from banks was to grow rice. Now, combine all of that with the arrival of fast food and the lack of food safety, and I'm not talking just about street food, but imports, right? They were, so, you know, there's a lack of a diversified diet, fast food, lack of food safety, also really having terrible impacts on people's health over the last couple of, you know, I would say couple of decades. So for example, a lot of households, particularly poor households in Myanmar, will rely on cheap imported cooking oil. We have no idea of the provenance of it or the quality of it, you know, whether it's been tested. People were consuming a lot of sugary drinks, salty snacks, instant noodles, because again, that's what they could afford, right? Unfortunately, the situation has really worsened, obviously, since February 2021. Now, the latest UN data said that nearly 1 in 4 people now need food aid. Not only that, the concern is that poverty and hunger in 2 of the food baskets, or the agricultural heartlands, which is in the dry zone in central Myanmar and the Ayeyarwady Delta, are increasing. And that's a real worry, because if the farmers can't grow food even to feed themselves, the repercussions, right, will be felt nationwide, and there's insecurity and all of that. Now, we haven't even touched on issues around climate. So things like rise in temperature, drought, and floods that are already affecting some of the farmers in Myanmar. There's so much more that I can say that would be really worrying and depressing, but I want to touch very, very briefly for the next few seconds on the other side of the coin, which is that there's so much rich culinary traditions and amazing produce all across Myanmar, right? We've already heard from Timmy, we've already heard from Trish, you know, Gotet, about all the different stuff. I mean, when I was traveling with my friend Kelly for the kite tails all over the country. And we were doing this in 2016 and 2017, and a bit also in 2018 and 2019. We were just blown away by the food that we got across the country, you know, from the Naga region to Loiko, from Palam to Indorji Lake, from Miao U to Dawe, you know, like, so for example, when we're in Naga region, some of the local dishes, a lot of the local dishes, in fact, didn't use any oil because it was not part of the tradition. There was these really delicious, you know, spicy pounded stuff that they use. And you also have these things, the Naga peppers, that were really special, that almost similar to Sichuan peppers. And when a local was describing the Naga peppers to us, they said they dance on your tongue, and they do. That's the sensation that you get when you cook with Naga peppers. And I remember this amazing housewarming feast that we had in a village in Kaya, or this like super fresh seafood in Tendai, the vegetables and the fruits that we get in Shan. But because again, the infrastructure is so bad, because the systems weren't set up, not everybody in Myanmar get to enjoy or understand these traditions, right? And I think it's so important to preserve these recipes, these traditions. Trish, so it's amazing what you're doing, because they're culinary heritage, but also because a lot of them are just so much better for health and resilience. That's it. Sorry, went on a bit of a tangent, but.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank
That
you.
was incredible. Oh my gosh.
I have like a dozen questions going off in my mind.
Yeah, me too. I was like, wait, where do I start? Wow, that's incredible. And I can relate to what you were talking about, like food insecurity, and I can touch on that a little bit about food evolution, because fish sauce is something that we've been, we were born out of fish sauce pretty much. We put fish sauce in everything. And I went to a smokehouse and also a fish sauce farm. And the guy was talking about, this was 8 years ago. And then he says that in 10 years, the type of fish that was available back then, what were they fermenting? Anchovy. So we have like this Burmese anchovy that we ferment, will start changing because from overfishing, from like the yield are nothing, and like so, because the different types of fish use and the different climate as well, and it start affecting the produce. So even I don't even know like what happens now if we cannot find like fish to ferment, because fermenting fish is not just like consuming one slab of like fish, right? You have to ferment like a large batch. So you have to catch a lot of fish. And then yes, it goes through like a process of rotting the fish. So some people might ask like, oh, can we just like, ferment any type of fish? Yes, but the end results would differ. And the traditions, like even like the mohinga, which is like mainly affected based on the type of fish sauce that you use. So yeah, like it's food evolution, and then how it's connected to the taste and where it's going now. And then even now, like in Chiang Mai, like we are seeing a culture shift, even though like kind of similar to what Kenneth says, even though that we like to cling on to our culture and heritage and like indigenous like produce, but we still have to find a way to adapt. And yeah, so in terms of like authenticity too, like there is no such thing as authenticity anymore. But I think yeah, going back to like what Martin says, it was just like so mind-blowing. So thank you for that. Sorry, I also went on a tangent.
I just found it quite funny that you started talking about rice, and I was thinking that this is probably the only problem where you see someone mince rice. But I have minced minced. But I'm supposed to crush it. But anyway, it was successful.
Well done, well done. Yes, this is the part where usually when you do stuff like that, your grandma would beat you.
We don't talk about childhood traumas here, but
Well, yeah.
yeah, but
Well done. What a great adaptation. Um, Yeah. Okay, so sorry, can I just quickly ask someone ask oh okay, so Martin already answered. Yeah. Um okay, cool. I have a question for Gotet because what Martin tapped into like different sectors of like the effects like food conditions and agriculture and whatnot, right? And food insecurity. So Gotet works at Food Not Bomb Messout, and he is almost like an expert in dealing with food insecurities. So tell me a little bit about, for those of you who have never been to Mesad, it's a completely different country, even though it's just a city that's part of Thailand. But they have their way of running things. They have their own like government systems, almost like police like system. And yeah, when I went there, right, like it was the way they organize the produce, and I mean, the way actually, the way they treat Burmese people over there is incredibly disheartening and racist and very stereotypical. But the it puts being Burmese in Mesot, it's a target. So for Gotet to run one of the biggest food donation program by himself and as part of Food Not Bomb Mesot, and then do that regularly to feed the displaced, the refugees, and then cook for them, like that's insane. So can you tell me a little bit about the challenges that you face in Mesot and like what you do in like how things are run in Mesot for your project? And how'd you get into it?
Okay, so it's a lot. So
It's okay, take your time.
so Mesot, and there's a lot of Burmese people here. So this more the population is more than Thai population. Burmese population is more than Thai population, because before the coup there are a lot of migrant worker. Also, that 1988 people uprising. After that, they moved to here, and also the Muslim people, Muslim, because of the oppression, they came here and they work here. So after the coup, a lot of people from the urban, they came to Mesa to escape from the military dictatorship. So me too. So there's a lot of people, and also that we have this many problem with the mentally and also the financial problem and also security. So uh, as Trish mentioned about the Burmese people, if you are Burmese, you are the targeted by the police and also the time races, same time races. So police, they always find that honestly we are how can I say, we are not the legal. So a lot of people are not the legal. So that's why they try to arrest us and arrest many from the police. I think BI is the big corruption here, and also that this the Thai-Burma border. So that's why there are a lot of battle and a lot of war in the current side. So there's a lot of refugee and on the borderline, and also that at the Burma side, there's a lot of refugee too. So first, that I 2014, I was working with the Punabo Django. So also with the Pan community, and we were together with them, and then we give the food every Friday evening. So for the displaced person, also people who are very poor, we go and give the food. So that's the idea. Go to here. So, and also here, there's a lot of people who have no food and also no job, uh, uh, and they are refugee, and also they are migrant, and also people who came after the coup. they have many problem here. So that's why we think that we should make a vulnerable method here. So it's very difficult. The name is too, vulnerable. So right now, a lot of resistant group and also a lot of revolutionary group, they are making war. So to get peace, I know that, but the name is vulnerable. So some think that these kind are they are against acts. They said that just food, not bone. So, but we have to explain a lot about that. And but here, some of them they understand about us. And so every week we go and give the food to the the village near the borderline, near the river called Taoyin. So near the Taoyin River, there's a lot of migrant worker, and also there's a lot of it's a migrant, just migrant, and also IDPs. So they stay at the village. The village are the how can I say that? So that's not the legal village. How to please someone please translate for me now. ကျူးကျော် လို့ဖြစ်နေရလေကျူးကျော်
These are like illegal like settlements. So
yes, at that place we go and give the vegetable and not cooked yet. We go and give there. So and then we try to make the we try to cook there, and we go and ask the villager, and we cook at the place. Let's cook together and have a food. So it's difficult. Firstly, we think that that we just think about the Burmese food. So it's called how to say these are bekalahin. So it's called vegetable, and how can I say that that's the key word, that's bad, but we used to use it. So the kala means it's from the people who from the Indian, so that's Indian for food. So we go out there. So we think that that the villager can help us, but they don't know how to cook the bekalahin. so but we ask them to how to get the ingredient and how to get the vegetable, but we have to cook ourselves. So that's one of the difficulty for us. And right now it's because of this pandemic, we how to say most are current at the village. So I got an idea from the team and Tris. Now we have to make the talabo at there. So next week there will be that talabo. So that's the quote.
that's so cool. Oh my gosh, Timmy, your recipe is going like viral.
They probably know how to make it better than I can.
So I will invite Tim to have a movement. Yeah.
I mean, like I'm okay, and then the moment they start speaking Korean to me, and I'll be like, because my Korean is like down there. I spoke way much better Korean and way much more when I was a kid, but now, and I feel a little ashamed to say that I'm Korean.
Yes, we also have a current member here. Vulnerable members who are current. So they interested to have these kind of movements. That's why they try. Also, we play the football together. That's why they know about the vulnerable, and then they try. They will be they will be cooking talabo. I hope that will be delicious. If we cook this not, that's the Rangoon talabo will be. Talabo Burmanization.
What is that actually? I wonder what it looks like.
No, please don't do that. Please don't even think about it. It's just like Dalabo imperialism.
Okay.
Good tag. I kind of want to ask you a little bit more about when you said like you won't cook. over there at the village. Can you explain like how the whole process is? Do you like cook in public, like, and like are there like a lot of like cooks who is helping you? And like how is the feeding process? Like do you just like cook and then like give out and like yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So that we do not buy the how to say ingredient from the capitalist. So we just go and buy from the how to say people who are very poor who sell their vegetable, and also we are we are having the how to the organic fan here. So we try to have it. So it very it very how to say based on the next month or next week. So we are trying to have an organic fan, so that we have the ingredient and vegetables is from there, and then we are going to cook there. So we go and buy at the market, near the market. So people who are poor, they sell the vegetable or something like that. So we go and buy there, and then we collect the people from the vulnerable, and then we went there. So sometimes sometimes of the village they do not have how to say the pole, big pole. So we have to go and ask to the monastery. It's a Thai monastery. So some of the Thai monastery there are some Burmese monk. So it's good for us. We ask them, and then we take from them, and then we went to the village. So the village and the city is take 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So how can I say that the police they only check in us. So we are Burmese people. Burmese people are like they are ATM. So when they see the car and then there's a lot of people, they try to arrest us, and also they ask the money. So because the ingredient and also that we have a lot of things. Also people who are or not all member, or some of the member they do not have an ID card, or they are not the legal. So that's why they try to ask money a lot. So I have experience about the twice, and when we went there, that we have to ask the how to say head of the village, and we have to ask them to make the food in here to cook here. So some of the head of village or how they are called, they have a code banner, so they allow us to do. But sometimes we cannot cook there. We have to cook at our home, or some we carry the food, and also even giving the food is obviously not the legal. That's not the legal. So what they said is if you have the organization, you have to register here, register from the front to the government, and also you can give the food. So not only is Burmese but also Thai. So you have to give food. They said like that. That's what the police said, and also to what the village head of the village said like that. So we have that kind of difficulty, and also the financial is the how can I say that we have to ask our friend to help. So as a trip, we ask a lot, and also now I have a lot of friends here. I will ask later. So it's like that. We have many kind of difficulties, security, and also the culture. So the culture is different. That most are Korean here, and also most are Muslim. So, but we do not code out of me, or mostly vulnerable code only vegetable. So we are vegetarians like that. So that's good for the Muslim, and then also that's good for the other ethnic. And also that when we call the how to say the backline, it's a little bit difficult. They have never how to say they do not have an experience to eat That's food. Some people, not some people. It's a lot of people from here. So, but people who come after the cook, they like it. And also the one we give to the Korean, they don't know how to eat. So we talk to it's like a talabo. It's same, little bit same. So it's like a talabo. So let's put it in the rice and slide eat it. So after that they like a lot. The next time come here and cook again. So mostly I cook there.
Wow, that's so cool. As
I
in,
haven't.
yeah, please.
No, I was just going to say I have an opportunistic request. I want to write about what you're doing, Gotet, and the next time I'm in Mesot, I would love to accompany you when you go and do that.
Yes, welcome.
Mhm.
Wow, this
We should also ask any of the people that are listening, any of the guests that are here, are there any questions or comments or things that you would like to share?
yeah. While that's waiting, Kotet, thank you so much for sharing your story. Like a really brave story too. I mean, like I can't imagine doing that on a daily basis and then also like normalizing it. Another thing that I want to pinpoint about feeding Burmese people, they're the hardest to please. So I've I've had the biggest challenge the past 2 years, cooking for the displays or like my crew, and then it's like feeding kids, if we do not tap into like specific palette for this specific dish, if there's no rice cooked, and like they just won't cave. And then I've heard stories on my friend who was working um, in the refugee camp, and then they were like a World Bank or like World Food Program would donate them like these like little snacky bars just to like fill them up, right? And you would assume that these, like these displays or like people who are like hungry would just like, be happy about just using food as a sustenance, but not Burmese people, not us. We're just be like, it's not good enough. This doesn't match our palate. So there was just be like abundance of like these energy bars that are so good for your body, very nutritious. So he ends up eating those snack bars and then trading, and they made him trade from the outside world whatever he can bring in, some Burmese food, and then they would just stick to what they're familiar with, and then that's also another like culture integration that I am seeing here in Chiang Mai. I wouldn't say displaced, I've been living abroad for like 10 years, right? So it's just a little bit easier to adapt. But to most people, I have friends who've gone back to Burma despite the danger, just because they just can't handle the Thai food here. Yeah, so like things like that, the adjustment period is hard, but yeah, it's just very interesting. Um, Someone just asked, like, what is the difference in flavor profile between Thai and Burmese basil? Um, Thai basil is not just like one type of basil. So they have holy basil, sweet basil. They're like multiple types of basil that you use it for very specific dish. Burmese basil, we don't use basil that much, but it's a little bit more pungent, a little bit more floral, and yeah, I mean the basil that I've been exposed to in Burma, that is, yeah. Okay. Um, right. Timmy, can you is the food ready? I am super hungry.
Yes, it is. I am just plating it, and
Wow.
plating, such a fancy word. I'm just putting it into the bowl. But Okay, I will show you in a bit.
This is like a torture. Um,
Well, Trish, you do it all the time on your Instagram page. So you're
uh,
perfect.
a little like advertise. So to me's background is a graphic designer. For those of you who knows Babama. So he is the mastermind behind the logo design and also the name itself. When we were hanging out and we were playing with words, yeah, he was like, if you ever have a restaurant, and it was just a pun, and he just said, "Oh, Bamama." But for those of you who don't know, Bamama means like a slang word for Burmese girl, and I like to see that. Like anyone can interpret it however they want, but for me, it's like that spicy, feisty Burmese girl. So he is the one who designed the logo. If anyone's interested, he's available.
Yes, I did. Yeah, but if also if you know me, I like to edit my designs all the time. I never stop. So this is how I maintain uh, a client relationship, and that I'm gonna keep editing. Just kidding. But here it is. Okay, I don't know how to best show this. There
Wow.
it is. Um, that red little chili is just for decoration. I'm just that's what I was fishing for earlier. Rigorously searching for it in the pot. I took a little creative difference here. Well, it's not very creative. It's just that I wanted to remake how my mom would make, right? So my mom is from the Delta, yes, but my dad is from Mon State. Both of those places have a lot of bamboo shoot. So whenever it is rainy season, not only we get a lot of fish, we also get a lot of bamboo shoot. So what would happen is my mom would cook a whole bunch of it, like huge pots and pots of bamboo shoot. She would keep the fresher ones, younger ones for dozia, like what is dozia in English?
It's like vegetable, assorted vegetables,
Right,
relishes. Just dip it
right,
into like this fermented fish paste. Yeah.
right. So she would keep that for the young ones for that, and the old ones, she would boil them down and make things like this. But what also happened, my family is also huge. We have like 10 people living in the house. So what happens every day is she will cook like a huge pot of whatever it is. So the difference I did here, I know that Trish told me not to, in the recipe that she wrote, she edited a bit. She said to put basil at the end and do not stir. But that is not what happens at home because we have this huge pot that we cooked in the morning, and then we would just reheat it throughout the day and eat for all 3 meals. Well, mostly two meals. But here it is. It's I like it a little not I like it not too brothy, not too thick, but you can still see bits and pieces of rice in it. And then there's dill and um, basil in there. Here's the bamboo shoot and onion. And I think at one point I was starting to guess because it doesn't smell the same as my mom. I was starting to second guess, but I think the fragrance that I was longing for is the fresh garlic at the end, like when you just put it on top right before you take it off the heat. That really enhances not only just the garlic fragrance, but also all the pepper that you've put in there. Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this bowl of deliciousness. Um, I wish I can share that with you, but you can you can take a look at it.
That looks so good. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you to me for cooking this delicious bowl of talabah. I wish I could taste it. And yeah, like the recipe is up on inside Myanmar page. So please, if anyone who wants to remake it, go tap. And if you need help with like portioning and then like, you know, cooking for batch cooking, I'm here for you to yeah. Wow, everyone. This has been such a wonderful um sorry, I'm just reading like all the all the chat
I,
boxes. This is
I have a question
yeah.
I'd like to ask either to Trish or Matin. I think you might have something to say about this. So we're talking about the flow and the movement, transition of Burmese cuisine as it's starting to change as it goes into other places, especially since the coup. And I guess to reverse that question, I'm thinking during the 2010s, we saw an opening of the country where you had influences and products and ways of thinking, internet coming in that hadn't been there before, as well as Burmese people who had more opportunity to be able to connect and travel abroad. And so, as far as cuisine and food goes, did you see any, and I know this was a very short time, but did you see any subtle influences or changes or ways of thinking about food that this openness was bringing in during these years and affecting, maybe in subtle ways or even bigger ways, what and how people were eating?
Martin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you were asking that question, Gerard, the first thing that struck my mind was the fact that we suddenly had really nice restaurants serving Burmese cuisine, and in a in a setting where we can bring friends from abroad, and just showcase the Burmese food. I mean, I used to get so annoyed whenever people say, "Oh yeah, I've been to your country, such lovely people, but the food not so great, is it?" And I'd be like, where did you go? Like, and particularly if they were traveling, before the 2010s, obviously, the there weren't there weren't that many places, restaurants or cafes where they can eat. A lot of them would be street type places where, I would absolutely love to eat, but I think some tourists might be a bit worried about, getting a bad tummy or whatever. But also just this, Burmese cuisine was dismissed for a very long time as being bland, too oily, to this, to that, compared with the neighboring cuisines, and sort of just like say, oh yeah, it's just not as good. And to me, the big difference is the influx of people coming in, the influx of people coming back, and people from inside the country seeing the opportunities. All of those three coming together to you know and the result was just, yeah, just the people understanding Burmese cuisine more and better and able to enjoy it, and changing their minds. I love it. I mean, like, I would always think like one of my greatest achievements, if like I'll cook for friends at home who've never eaten Burmese food, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I love this," and I'm like, "Yes, like three down. How many more to go?" So to me, that's the big difference, that I saw, which of course now it's regressed back, unfortunately.
What you
But
say
yeah.
reminds me of there's a travel writer who's based in Thailand called Joe Cummings, and I was reading one of his essays at one time where he was contrasting Thai and Burmese food, and he was talking about how Thai food is judged often more positively than Burmese food, and he gave this explanation that because of the poverty, the poor governance and dictatorship that we've seen in the country, that the ingredients people are cooking with, everything from cooking oil to spices to whatever else, that these are not of the same quality because of again, the type of regime that's been there, and that if you have the chance to have food from someone who cooks it with that's coming from a middle class background, it tastes very different. And so I think this is another way that we're seeing that that the how food and just the type of cuisine is impacted by these influences that might not be so apparent. And and Trish has done so much, if anyone hears her interview on Insight Myanmar, to be able to describe how food storytelling is able to show a people and a culture in different ways. And that when, as both of you have shared in different ways, when you're able to bring that food, to prepare that food and serve it and talk about it differently, it can also change the culture and the people as well. So yeah, I think these are, yeah, it's very very interesting to think about just that short window of time where where things changed in ways that, and if I just can share one more anecdote and then turn it, then here check in with you guys again to see what you say. And I've shared this on in various episodes. People might have heard me say it already, but during the transition period, there came to be a farmers market that would be held in Kendaji Park, and there'd be everything from frozen ice pops to kombucha, to organic soil, to organic fruits and vegetables. What farmers market anywhere you'd see in the world. And I would go with friends who had maybe been in Burma a couple years and hadn't been there in the bad old days. And when you're going to this farmer's market, you can kind of be lulled into like, oh yeah, this is a farmer's market like I've been to anywhere else. But suddenly it would just kind of hit me like, 3 years ago, my God, like nothing like this would exist. I mean, just the simplest thing of someone following their passion to make a kombucha business, someone following their passion to grow, some kind of fruit or vegetable they really care about, and then being able to sell it, and to be in this free association where we're all under the sun, we're drinking, we're talking, we're buying things, we're having a good time. This is unheard of a few years ago. It's unheard of now. And so just this simple experience of a farmer's market that so many of us take for granted, this is something that that was only possible when the type of government and society changed, and which was really a lovely experience for an hour going, as farmers markets always are, and which we hope to be able to see again soon, obviously.
Yeah, that farmers market, my friends run it actually, and I actually work with the team on a separate like Organics to sell my products back in Yangon when I had my own business. But yeah, like that was, I think that farmers market was one of the reason why I quit my job, my fancy Michelin star job, and I quit it. And I was just like, yeah, Myanmar is ready. Ready. That transition period was so heartwarming and uplifting and motivating. Um, it was it was an interesting time, and especially during COVID hit, to see how many of the businesses, especially from the rural areas, all my suppliers, who are passion fruit like farmers and like rice growers in Shan State, these are like old aunties, who barely have like phones. But then they had to digitalize themselves, and then they got so good at it doing Facebook live sales. And just, e-commerce just boosted because of COVID, and then they learned all of these technical skills, and digital marketing was the thing. And then it switched from just a month or 2 months, no, actually even less, like a month period, that people like quickly adapt. And one of the best thing about us like Burmese people, we were born to adapt pretty much. Like doesn't matter which regions are you from, and then we're so affected by all of these conflicts. And yeah, like so it's so interesting to see how that evolved. Another thing is that what I'm seeing now with the work that I do, not to toot my horn, but I took a lot of these, I read a lot about building food diplomacy and culinary diplomacy. And then in Thailand, the government itself would put money in other countries to encourage people to open restaurants, or like to ease the visa process for people who wants to own restaurants and stuff like that. So it helps when the your government is helping you out and like whoosh, like a little push, and which is why like Thai food is extremely popular all over the world, and it's just sort of boomed, right? Pad Thai is like one of the it's a culinary diplomacy dish because it's created to satiate like the palate of the American soldiers in the 70s. So it's like one of the newest dish actually. So why can't we do that with Burmese food? And I think the stereotypes that Burmese food being oily and then stuff like that, there's a reason for it, right? There's a reason for a lot of the dishes that we cook, but then that's also like very scientific, and then it's very like mansplaining. I find it very mansplaining. So I think with my line of work, I would just create a sense of community. And then I think a lot of those are lacking in this modernized era, that where we just come together and then just sit down and eat and share a meal. Whether you eat with hands, go ahead, or you just want to dip like stuff in, or you just or help cook. You know, I love when people wants to like come over and cook, and that's when you like start bonding, right? And then even like sharing stories over each other. And then I think Bangkok, I'm not, it's a big city, but Chiang Mai just in general already have that that culture of community building here. So it's a very easily a bridge to build. And there's a lot of interesting projects happening and going to happen. And I'm very intrigued by where food scene in Chiang Mai will go in the next 5 years, actually, especially like Burmese food. And also to pinpoint that in Chiang Mai, especially um, eating indigenous food is like a trendy thing. So it's like a cool thing. And I think it's a really smart thing, whether it's seen as like a little bit capitalized on it. And why not? I've just recently had like Aka food for the first time in my life at one of the biggest like Chiang Mai food festival. And then they're exposing to like a lot of tourists, and we were there at Chiang Mai Food Festival exposing Burmese culture, and it was just a all-rounder, yeah, like a happy feeling of being able to share a culture. And then when you're sharing food, no one's gonna like be angry at you, right? It's a little like leeway into the act of giving, which is the heart of a lot of Burmese people, to be honest. Like that's us. If I have to describe in like a smallest sentence, giving is Burmese people. Yeah.
And I have another follow-up question. I think I think this is a question for all the panelists that would have some background in this. You know, we've talked just a bit about the transition period and talked about Burmese food that was being able to find its way in new places based on the displacement and all the Burmese people that are now around the world and Burmese communities through storytelling. If we then go back and look at what's actually happening in the country, we've talked about this a little bit, but to address it more head on, if we look at these past few years, the people that are remaining in the country that are either in IDP camps and trying to get food there, that are in the resistance and the PDFs, and obviously they have to food and supply is a big part of being able to do what they're doing. What for anyone there, what have you learned about some of the challenges that we're seeing in the country since the coup related to Burma, whatever part of the country or condition or community we're looking at, and how are those challenges being met, and how is the actual food and cooking and consuming, how is it changing based on the problems that we're seeing as well?
It's a lot to think about. I kind of don't want to go first.
But people who are on the ground should go first.
I have an experience about in the jungle 16 days because of the leaky war. So in December of 2021, so I was in the leaky go because of in Rangoon, I cannot stay there, so they trying to arrest me. That's why I went to the current state. And at the current state, while I arrived there, so that's the we call Lekeko. So somebody know about some people will know about Lekeko. So the Lekeko is the near the Thai Burma border, also at the current state. So there's a in that place we can cook, we can eat, and we have a food at the near the Miaori city. So Miaori is beside the Mesop. So it's easy to get the food and it's easy to get the vegetable. But in the jungle, it's very difficult. So after that, there was a war between the KNU and military. So then we have to run away to the jungle. So at the jungle, so we cannot cook. And we cannot call that. It means, we do not have a bowl, or we do not have, how to say,
you don't have any, yeah, no utensils, no cooking utensils.
Do not have pork. That's why, we how to say, we try to find the things to cook. And that's time we saw that I would say chicken Burma is not. Someone can translate about that. So mitazu mobile ne chon thamin chat mitazu mobile tira.
It's like yeah, we sorry Timmy, do you want to I'm not so familiar.
No, it's just a snack box, a tin snack box that is like maybe this big.
Oh, a biscuit bowl. Yes. I know that one.
With a family picture, it's a little red package.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, that's like oh God, it's probably quite ubiquitous in Burmese households. It's a metal tin that you normally get you have biscuits inside. Yeah.
So we cook with that. We cook the rice with that. That's tin. And also, we do not have meat. That's why we go and catch the chicken or pork, something like that. So in that time, we have a big experience. Also, how to make it. Let's go back to the I'll say how can I say that? Let's go back to the it's like an
it's like prehistoric time, cooking with whatever that's available.
Yes. How to make the fire, then we have to discuss, and how can I make that? So many people, they have many kind of experience about that. So and then we have a rice and we have a food at there. So that's the kind of experience for that. Right now, also at the current state, there's a lot of PDF. So they are luckier than other place because they are near the Thai Burma border. So that's why we can send the food and we can send the yeka. So we can send the food and we can send the rice to the current state. So at the middle part of Burma, they have many difficulty about that. To get the rice or to get but even at the middle part of Burma is that they grow the rice. Right now they have a difficulty about that. So because of the war, and it's like that's just sharing my experience in the jungle. Just 16 days at there. So
that's so incredible. I mean, it makes so much sense because I think it's like genius using the metal, like the family biscuit box, because it's metal and then like it's heat resistant, and then it wouldn't melt, and then you can like reuse again and again. You can carry it around, and yeah, and it cooks pretty well. In fact, I think like I might start using that to like smoke
Yeah.
my chicken now.
And
I mean,
also the talabo. Talabo is the in prison. So they every day they give the food. It's like a talabo. So in the prison. So that's a long time ago. They always give the talabo in the prison. So it's easy to have like this, and also cheap. So they do not put the only, they just put the morning glory and the rice, and it's like a soup. They give like that in the in the prison.
Mhm.
That's we call the prison food.
That was not my intention, but yeah.
But you know, it's funny hearing, it's interesting hearing you talk about this, the talaba being this kind of everything soup, because it reminds me of what I've heard of, like, you know, the origins of shepherd pie in England, or like gratin in France, you know, that like in the poor countryside, these are dishes that are, they could be kind of fancy and quite, you know, quite luxury kind of made now, but the origins of them are just kind of like people living in the countryside and just sticking whatever you could, either it was a soup or a stew or a pie, and then you that's what you make, and then it's come to us today, and we can kind of make it fancy with the things that we have available.
Yeah, like a lot of food now, that used to be treated as like poor people food is now very commercialized and capitalized as like a really cool thing. And then, yeah, it has its bad and good outcomes to that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I can easily imagine that, because at first I was thinking, of course, we usually eat it with rice, but rice itself is already in there, and it's already a pretty starchy filling as well, filling dish that you can have almost all of nutrients in one bowl. So I can imagine how it could be a prison food.
Um, yeah. I've only heard this like the first time, but then I've only heard of like dalabo is seen as like for farmers when before like they start going out for farm, then you just eat it for breakfast so that they could just last for the whole day and like energize them. But yeah, prison food makes sense, you know. I've always wondered like what they eat in the prison. It's very interesting. Healthy. That's very healthy.
Um,
Depending on what they put.
yes.
Um, does anyone have any questions in the group chat as well? Anyone out there who's still live? But I guess we can wrap this up. And thank you so much. Like if any of our panelists who has any questions or want to leave like last words, final things that you want to say, please feel free.
It's been lovely reading the comments that some of the guests have been leaving, even though
Yeah.
we're a small crowd. This will become bigger later, obviously, as this becomes a podcast, and the safe version of it goes on YouTube. Then you know, more people have access to it. But you know, even though this has been a small gathering, I just want to say how much I've appreciated these comments that have been coming. I think we've really when you put something like this together, you really don't know how it's going to hit,
Yeah.
um, and to hear from these people that are in the audience, and just which as this goes on YouTube and in the podcast, these comments won't be there for people to see. They're just on the live version. But I'll just say for the live version, and for those that are hearing this later, you know, there's just been some beautiful comments of people talking about how much this has affected them hearing this, and that's just lovely. That's everything that we wanted to do with bringing this together and convening this. to find a way to talk about food and all the tentacles that and the tendrils that food goes to, and how it affects identity and freedom and democracy and everything we care about in Burma. And so I think we've landed on something, and really thank the panelists who've come on to share such diverse stories based on your research and background and activities and projects you're doing. I mean, it's 2 hours has just flown by. We could go 20 hours with how much you guys have to share. So it's just, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thanks for organizing it. And it's great to be talking about what's happening back home through the lens of something that I think everybody, can relate to, because we all come into contact with it every single day, right? Food's the universal language. Eating is the universal expression of affection and love and community. And I'm always trying to find ways of trying to keep the issue of Myanmar, somewhere. And I think this is a great way of doing it. So yeah, thanks for organizing it.
Thank you for being up so late, not sleeping, sleep deprived, and being part of this panel, and then like awake. Thank you, Ma. Kotet, do you wanna say anything?
Yes, want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for organizing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if anyone's in, I work closely with, not closely, but like as whenever I get a chance, I would donate to Kotes. So if anyone's out there who's listening and then would like to make donations, please feel free to contact like Food Not Bomb out, or like reach out to us and we can like connect the dots. Yeah, to me, do you have anything you want to say? Thank you for sharing Dalibor recipe. I'm definitely gonna make it like in a little bit.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice that I could share what I enjoy doing. I mean, as Trish has already mentioned, this is not what I do as a trait, but I love cooking. I love sharing food with my friends, and I think of this as like sharing this with even a larger crowd, and I think that is very nice too. It's a nice feeling. So thank you.
I think literally, oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
That looks awesome.
That's epic. So I don't know if we'll be able to show these pictures, but the Gotet just showed a picture of like the family biscuit box, and then they just fired it up on the ground, and then it looks incredible. And then they poke a hole in the center. Wow, that's genius. I'm blown away. But thank you.
I just have a quick question about that family biscuit box. Do you keep the packaging on when you're like burning it?
Sorry.
Is the label still on as you are burning it?
The label?
Yeah, like the picture of the family. I just thought of a really, I mean, my brain, I woke up a little too early today, so my brain is not really braining, but
I think the label is like printed in
on
the
the
on the
on the plate.
on the metal. So like I think when they burn that and it's all turned like dark, so I think it's like the family is burning. I'm like it's there.
I'm sorry that I brought it up.
No, it's good. I was thinking the same thing too. I was like, wait, hang on, because I don't remember seeing any like extra label on it. It's like yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I guess like this is a wrap up, and I hope we will come up because we're all like super busy and have like different like things that we're going on. But we will definitely love to do this again. Like, who doesn't want to talk about food for hours? But thank you, panelists, for sharing, like Matin and Gotep, for your incredible stories, and the work that you do are like incredible. You make Burma so proud, and like me being Burmese, like I'm so proud. Timmy, thank you so much. No, yeah, Joa, thank you so much as well. I guess we will see if we can do another program. But let us know in the comments for the live session people, like if you want to see more of this, or like what topics that you're interested in, or like any food historians, or like anyone food related stuff out there, please like reach out to us, and yeah, we'd love to know, and yeah, know more stories. So yeah.
We should actually thank Jamie, who just in the comments said, yes, please. We should actually credit her for the idea that started this whole thing, because she was the one who sent a message saying, I love when you have podcast guests on your episodes that talk about food and cooking. I want more of that. And that's where I thought, well, can we move beyond a podcast episode, and can we blame my inner fat kid? Can we move beyond a podcast episode, and can we actually convene people who are connected to Burmese food in very diverse ways, and be able to prompt this? And who better to talk to than Trish? And through Trish's incredible network of foodies, was able to bring on the panels that we had. And so yeah, I think even that in and of itself, in a nutshell, is kind of illustrating how these networks can function, and how they can connect us in ways that are perhaps surprising. That Jamie is simply a podcast listener, just offers a suggestion into the ether, and suddenly we all materialize here. So sometimes that's all it takes, is just a little push, a little thought, a little volition, and everything comes together. And as I keep saying, even though we're a small group here, this is going to go on to be heard by hundreds and thousands, later, that are going to come to it at their own time, in their own place, while they're working out, while they're cleaning, while they're cooking, while they're eating. And those effects are going to keep kind of going beyond. And I think it also just kind of reminds us that everything matters. Every little thing matters. You put something out there, and you don't really know where it's going to land and how it's going to hit. And sometimes it just materializes in the right way, which is what happened here. So
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we just leave. Like, it's like, bye. I'm so hungry. Well, thank you, everyone. So I guess
Lucky I have some food.
yeah. Okay. See you, everyone. Bye bye. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye.